So, hi, Mish.
Hi, Leah. Can we redo that?
It's all good. It's all good. This is
Okay.
loosey goosey. This is
Okay.
not, it's just, let's just talk like you and I would just talk normally, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, so um, I always start off with this basically explaining why it is that I am doing these discussions. The main idea, of course, is that there are so many people out there. Either they do know what's wrong with them and nothing's working, or they've gone and they've gotten tests and they've done so many things, and the doctors, of course, I can't find anything wrong. Nothing's wrong. And Nisha, as you know, we know what's underlying. A lot of people really don't. So the whole idea of doing what I'm doing with others is to get everybody else's information out there as well, so they see the variety of things, modalities or services, any of that type of thing available. Because one thing may resonate with somebody, and they may go, "Wow, this is really cool. I didn't even know this existed." Right? So I think it's amazing that way because it opens the doors to so many things that people really are completely unaware of. Um, so Mish, you and I
Mm,
met. Oh God, what, like 3 or 4 years ago now.
about that, yes.
We were, and actually, it's funny because we were just talking about the sound healing with Peter, and that's what. Excuse me. The first time I met you, when you came
Mhm.
with Peter to help carry all the stuff up into the yoga studio,
Mhm.
when Rose and him and I were doing our sound healing and guided energy healings. So yeah, I can't believe it's been that long.
It has been a while. There's been a lot of growth that's happened in that period of time.
Yes, all the way around for all of us. We've all grown. There's just been so much, right? That's just taken off. Side note: the studio now will hold like 40 people or more. She's moved to the place beside her now. She's not in that little space. So
Oh, amazing. Okay, I think she did
yeah,
mention that when we spoke.
yeah. So
Mhm.
it's gonna be kind of cool. But anyways, so a little bit about Mish. I've got a little something here that Mish sent me. So I'm just going to kind of break into that, and then you can introduce yourself and a little bit about who you are. So Mish works intimately as an intuitive energy healer, creating feminine empowerment mentorship, which includes assistance in the physical and emotional healing of individuals. And you work specifically with women, right? Um,
Predominantly with women.
yes.
Mhm.
She is also a passionate photographer and utilizes photography as a ceremonial tool for self empowerment and embodiment, also. So tell us a little bit about yourself, hon, like what you're doing and that type of thing.
So I would say that the women's work actually came to me. I When I first started off my journey offering sessions, it wasn't my intention to just work with women, but what's happened with I just kept attracting women as clients, and a lot of the women who came to me were actually pregnant. So I had quite a few clients who were coming to me, during their pregnancy, were actually trying to get pregnant. And of course, being a woman myself, this really opened up a portal of deeper understanding to what womb consciousness is. So I'll speak a little bit more about what that is in a moment.
Yeah, we'll get into that. I've got a few
Yes.
of those questions for sure further down.
hmm So I would say that that was the way that the work was presented to me. And the deeper that I got into this craft of working with women, the more I realized how it was also helping myself out on my journey. And I'm also a photographer. So the way that I see things is that photography and my energy healing, they're not different. In fact, what I've seen in my work again and again is that photography can be a tool used for healing, for embodiment. And there's something that's so powerful about having someone on the other side of the lens and then meeting yourself through the lens. Oftentimes it can bring up a lot in individuals, and there's always a catharsis release. There's always a flow of energy that happens even before we meet for the session that enables someone to go through processing, to go through a purging and then to step into this new chapter that they're calling in. So predominantly with photography, I do work with men as well, but it is predominantly with women. And that is something I'm super passionate about. And a few other things regarding the women's work is that I have found through my practice that the Rose has been a massive teacher of mine. So I do want to give her that call out,
I've
Rose.
got, yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff I'm going to ask you about because I know a lot about this stuff with you. So, of
Mm-hmm.
course, you and Peter both participated in several of Rosemary and I when we did our retreats up on Manitoulin Island,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some of your circles were absolutely beautiful. Actually, the one circle, which is beautiful because, of course, there's a vortex there too, so it amps things up.
Mm.
But I mean, that was the first time I'd ever channeled my goddess of fire. Was
Yeah, I felt that so strongly. Wow, I remember that. It was a
yeah, and I
highlight of
was
the
just
summer.
like,
Yeah.
I literally just my head fell and away I went. But yeah, that was and that was in your circle. You were leading that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was absolutely powerful. It was beautiful. Um, but yeah, um, so we talked about the photography, and I know I've seen so many of your images and of the different sessions, and oh me, it's just even the attire and the whole. It's beautiful, and I mean obviously it works very similar. Before we do energy work or medicine work, any of that type of stuff, spirit comes in. Well, it's almost like the minute
Mm-hmm.
you book it, the commitment
Yeah,
is
the
there.
second, yeah,
That's when it
exactly.
triggers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because even I sometimes within a day or two before, and of course the client sometimes it's like if it's a month before, then they've got that fluctuation through that course of time. So yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
an amazing way things happen the way they're
Yeah, and
supposed to.
I tell my clients, like, if anything comes up, just send me a text, give me a call, because sometimes things do come up, and it's important for us to have a guide or someone just to remind us, like, hey, this is a part of the process, you know, because there's that part of them, the resistance that's like, oh my gosh, I'm about to be seen. Oh my gosh, who am I? All the narratives of unworthiness, like fear of really coming out of their shell gets presented. So
Now the universe has got that pointed boot up their butt,
yeah, exactly.
pushing them out of that comfort zone, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and I'm
Hmm.
the same thing with a lot of different services that I with the shamanic services and the other services that I have. Same thing. You got to let them know ahead of time. Okay, this doesn't just mean integration afterwards. It's going to start before, during, and afterwards, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's kind of a really cool thing. Um, so maybe tell us a little bit about how you came to realize that this is the path you were meant to be traveling to help others. So I mean, even I've seen just how beautifully you've transformed, even from when I met you till now. It's like beautiful, right?
Thank
You've
you.
grown immensely. Oh my God, so beautifully. So how did you get to this place? Like what said? Yeah, this is what I need to do. Yeah, this is what I'm going to be doing. Et cetera, and so on.
Well, something that's always brought me purpose and joy has been helping others. So, even before my spiritual awakening, because I, believe it or not, was actually raised as an atheist. So I did not believe in any of this. And in fact, I was encouraged not to from my parents. Um, and so when I had my spiritual awakening, as you can imagine, and as I'm sure many people who are listening to this can imagine too, it feels like this pressure cooker where all your things are coming up. You keep getting the message that something needs to change, and bam, your life does a full 180. So what happened with me is that my spiritual awakening happened in 2015, and that was a series of very massive cathartic events. So, going from not believing in the realm of spirit or the energy at all to having my third eye like just turn on, and I could see strings coming from my fingers. I could see the manipulation of energy as I would play with the ether. So I couldn't really go back from there. And, also just feeling my energy centers open and feeling this magnetic force that was going into my crown, which really forced the truth that there is something that I'm connected to. There is something that I'm speaking to. And honestly, it really fascinated me. So the more that I dove into this exploration of this world that was once unseen to me, um, the more I began my own healing journey, and the more I felt inspired and was also guided to start offering this as a service to others. So I started off in Reiki. I got my level one attunement in the same year that I had my awakening. And over time, with the ceremonies that I've partaken in, and also just with my own channeled guidance, I really learned that, Reiki is just one stream of energy that we can channel. It's a very beautiful and powerful channel, but it is just one stream. And so I started receiving guidance as I was working on people, clients who'd come to me for these sessions, and I could hear their spirit team around them just giving me these insights. Okay, go to their core, or oh, there's an energy form that's right here, and it really opens me up to how intuitive this work really is, and ultimately, energy is creative. So there really is no set way of flowing with energy. And then branching from that, I've been a photographer for about 15 years now. And I started off in the fashion industry where, I got to work with incredible teams, and aesthetically what was being captured was so beautiful. And I love those images to this day. But given the journey that I was really coming on to, of the understanding of the soul, of energy, I started yearning for a different way of expression through photography. And it was that decision and that yearning that ultimately really allowed this flow of clients who are on the same path as me to come into my life. And so, now I really do see photography as an extension of this energy work and this ceremonial work that I do. So that's a little bit about it.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I know you once in a while you took a few photos here and there that I still use when we're doing
Mm.
retreats. I'm actually doing another one on Manitoulin in July.
Oh,
Um,
amazing.
yeah, July and
Same
September.
same retreat
Um,
space?
what's that?
Is it the same retreat space?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's at my friend Ashley's. It's still Ease the Spirit. Um,
Beautiful.
it's still same place. It's been hard to book it though. Unfortunately, she books up so quickly now. She's booked up like by the end of that year, going into the next one. Quite often,
Hmm.
she just has a few gaps, and you gotta hope you you get her before she starts booking up. So yeah, she's really gotten busy.
Hmm.
But yeah, the pictures that I still use some of those pictures. I still put them when I'm doing work on the website and whatnot, and occasionally
Mm.
for a post or whatever I'm doing to get it out there, right?
Hmm.
Um, because I
Yeah,
love these
it's
photos.
there's so much that goes into a photo. It's really beyond just the click of the shutter. It's like the connection, or sometimes even disconnection, between the photographer and what they're shooting. And the reason why I say disconnection is because sometimes as a photographer, your role is actually to be an observer and a witness, and to actually be not so involved with the scene. And other times it is about that engagement, and it's about that magnetism that you form with the subject. So yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Like I said, even from the time that I met you in 3 or 4 years, and seeing photos then and now, I just see it's
Mm,
exploded. Like it's just
mm,
it's the photos that I'm seeing you doing the last few years with people are amazing. That's all I can say. You can feel them when you see them, and that's
mm,
exactly what you're talking about. That even as somebody observing the photos,
mm,
quite often, I know you did one with was a guy and a girl.
mm.
Obviously, I'm assuming they're a couple. It was what about four or
Yeah.
5 months ago or 6 months ago or
Was
something.
it the one with the birds that were just perfectly timed in the shot? Or they were wearing these, I think I know which ones you're talking about.
The clothing was very unique,
Hmm. Hmm.
very almost like cavemanish or something. If I remember, I'm trying to remember what it was. But
They're these
anyway,
capes, yeah.
yeah. Oh, those were. I was just so enamored with those photos. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Anyways,
Hmm.
um, so with the work that you do and have done with women, what are some of the commonalities that you see with many women that they need help with? So I'm sure a lot of women, as we know, it's one of those things where women definitely need a lot of healing. There's a lot of circles that happen now, a lot of ways that women are helping one another to move forward.
Hmm.
So when you're working with all the women to this point that you've worked with, what do you see as a kind of a common thing, a common denominator, for lack of a better
Hmm.
term,
Yeah, for
between
sure.
these women?
Yeah, there's definitely a few common threads, and the first one is a lack of safety, presence, or appreciation for the body. And so, on my personal journey, after I had my spiritual awakening, the next chapter was actually to go deeper into my body through Tantra. And I think that, just looking at the media and looking at all of the ideas and what we're bombarded with, it's very easy to understand why we have been brainwashed to not feel the sense of love for our body. And I've also seen on the spiritual path, and I have been guilty of this in the past, where, as we're awakening to all of these different dimensions, sometimes those dimensions can seem a lot more appealing, a lot more fun than being over here. And,
Oh
I think
yes.
that's, yeah. And that's also a part of the teaching, which is, bring everything that you experience out here, ground it into here. And what I've also learned is, the deeper I ground it into my body, first of all, there is a process of having to clear shame. There is a process of having to really take a look at and lovingly love the parts of us that hold that trauma that is stored in the body, because some women actually avoid feeling for that reason. So it's actually very scary for them to go into their somatic, experience. Um, and what I've seen also is that the deeper that we ground into our body, it's almost like a tree. So the deeper the roots grow, which is how embodied we become in our body temple, our vessel to our soul, our branches naturally extend out so that we do actually receive um, more guidance and we become a clearer channel. So
Yeah.
there is something to be said about honoring why we are here on the physical, because number one, it's just a lot more fun when you love your body. It's a lot more fun when you're engaged with your senses. And it also clears us to receive information from the higher realms. So that's one thing. And I think another, something else that's very common with working with women is the fear of expression and the fear of being seen, because for centuries now, there's been a persecution of us standing in our power. We've been silenced, in our expression. We've been taught like, oh, if you want to say something, make sure you say it in the nicest way, or just don't say it at all. So I would say those are two really, really massive themes. Another that I find is also that, our bodies are also very multidimensional. So in the same way that we can perceive who we are as like a human and a spirit and an oversoul, we can say the same about the different parts of our bodies. So another theme that I notice is that I have women approaching me for womb work often, and they're coming to me because there's some irregularities in their period, or maybe they're not even getting their period, and it always goes deeper than just what they can think it is physically. um, and so I think that part of my work also is, awakening this knowing and this truth to women that, hey, your womb is a manifestation of the divine feminine, and there are there's a creative force and a power that you can tap into when you connect with that place. So yes, those are some common threads in the women that I work with.
Yeah, so beautiful. As you know, I'm not going to say your name, but I sent one of my really close friends to you, who
Hmm.
has the yoga. Um, and I
Hmm.
know she's said nothing but fabulous things about you. I said, did you honestly think I was going to send you to somebody that you wouldn't like?
Yeah.
But
Mm.
she's always been full of compliments. She's really happy that she's been working with you off and on for, I'm going to say, a better part of a year now. She's been coming to you.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
about that.
yeah, so that's
Hmm.
beautiful. She really needs reassurance and then everything else sometimes that way too. So I'm really
Mm-hmm.
glad that you guys have connected and things are going really well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so you were talking about the womb consciousness. Can you give a little better description in terms of what the womb consciousness is? Because there are women out there still, you either just opening up, or they're just awakening, or they really don't. There's a lot of women that wouldn't understand what that is. They would be a womb consciousness. Okay, what is that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. So, if we think of Tao, if we think of Source, God, whatever you'd like to call it, that represents like the point through which everything comes from.
Hmm.
And at that level, it is an energy, it's unity. It's all things, all is one. And in our dimension over here, we do play with polarity. So, one thing that governs this reality that we live in is, there's masculine energetics and there's also feminine energetics, and both play a role in our universe. So, when I speak of womb consciousness, I speak of it as a manifestation of feminine energy. So, if you think about it this way, like if you look at a physical womb, the bottom level of it is the physical organ. It does so much for us. We bleed every month, we shed. And one layer on top of that energetically is what I call the the personality to your individual womb. So this is the voice of your womb that has been there since birth, and she has also been cultivated through your own life experiences. So if you notice, perhaps like cramping before your bleed and you tune in, oftentimes you can probably hear actually some crying that's happening, or some anger that's there. So that's your personal womb voice. And above of that, here we're tapping into the the collective consciousness of wombs. So in the same way that, we speak of the collective consciousness of all individuals, there is a collective consciousness of wombs. So this includes everyone who has a womb. It includes your womb, and it also includes everyone who has had a womb through all space and time. So you can see it's almost like the higher self of the womb space. So you can see how the stronger of a connection that we develop with this point of consciousness, we can begin to tap into wisdom and guidance that women through all space and time have cultivated through having a womb. And so, even above that, there is something that I call, um, there's sisters. It's a sister duo. So there's the void and there's the cosmic womb. And so they're one of the same, but they're like opposite sides of the same coin. So the cosmic womb is that the burst of energy of life force. Is that creative life force that just that wants to birth, that wants to really create and blossom in life. And on the flip side of that is the void, and it's where things go to become nothing, only to be reborn again. So I'm saying this to really show the different tiers of the womb that we can connect with. And womb consciousness is this knowing that, our wombs are more than just a physical organ, and it's a source of power, cosmic power as well. So when I speak of womb consciousness, I'm speaking of that.
Beautiful. That's an awesome explanation. In fact, even I knew some of that, but even you just kind of educated me as well on some of
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. Um, of course, because a lot of this stuff, um, for me growing up, of course, I'm 58 years old, so some of this stuff wasn't so prevalent in information. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, again, going back to, like you said, women growing up in a time when you had protocols, for lack of a better
Mm-hmm.
term. It was a protocol and how you behaved and what you talked about and what you didn't talk about, and all of this stuff. So, mum's the word type of thing. So there wasn't the liberal that we have now in talking about our body and how they work and all of that thing, right? So, it's one of those things where it's awesome that you really were beautifully descriptive with that, because I'm sure there's a lot of women
Mm-hmm.
out there still. In fact, I know there's a lot of women out there still. As much as there are many, there are still so many that do not understand, that the womb is more than just carrying a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And hmm,
And there's been a programming, really, I think for most of us ever since, our first bleed. to think, oh, this is a dirty, shameful thing that you should be very, very secretive of, you know? So it did become this very taboo topic, but in truth, even the blood that comes out of the womb, the moon blood is a very potent force to actually work with. So that's for a separate topic. But our blood on its own also has its own spirit. So um, it's something that we can intentionally work with um, as a manifestation of feminine energy to release. You know, we can really lean into the fact that we are cyclical beings and we can use that to our advantage. So I do believe that to some degree, um, you know, the teachings, the false teachings that our period and our moon time is something to be ashamed of, something to, yeah, really hide is a way to also keep us away from our full potential and power.
Yeah, I believe that because, as I said, back in when I was going to school and as I was growing up, it was, and it's not, it's funny because it's not even something, it wasn't like I was taught to be ashamed of it, but we just did. Like
Mm-hmm.
you wanted to hide it when it was that time of the month in high school. It was like you wanted to hide it. For me
Mm-hmm.
growing up back then, you're talking in the 70s, right? Things were just
Mm-hmm.
starting to become a little more liberated. They were
Mm-hmm.
working on opening it up, and of course, the women's lib and all that other stuff. 60s going into 70s. Um, but it was one of those things where, and I really couldn't put my finger on, why, but I get it, because it was one of those
Mm-hmm.
things where,
It was
that
never talked about publicly, you know, in
no,
society. Like,
no. It was like you just like
yeah.
no, no, you don't. You talk about it with your girlfriend, right? But you wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
if there was a male present. Oh no, that was just you just didn't talk about it. So yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's beautiful how things are changing. Um, Maybe my next life I will be more in tune with the moon cycle because of course, as I said back then, I it wasn't something that I you know had much
Mm-hmm.
discussion about or had much knowledge of. I've been learning in the last handful of years about a lot of this stuff, so it's been beautiful.
You know, I also just want to offer as well, even if you've stopped your bleed, you can still connect to the spirit of your blood. And in fact, like that is something that I think would be a very beautiful experience for you to actually tune in to that essence that's been flowing through you for all of these years
Mhm.
and to have a conversation with it.
Yeah, it's something that I've often thought about. Even though my moon cycle is it's not over, but it is. If you know what I mean,
Mm,
it's not in that phase that most people that are younger than me, right? So again, it's one of those things where I've often looked at the different aspects of how I could still, you know, engage in that
mm-hmm,
type of thing. So maybe we'll talk sometime then.
mm-hmm,
We can
mm-hmm,
figure that out for sure because it's something I feel I did miss out on, right? Because again, it just wasn't at that time. We didn't discuss that stuff.
There's
Um,
always a way. Yeah.
of course, and we know that now. But again, a whole different
Mm-hmm,
ballgame back then. Um,
totally.
so, in terms of what you've been doing and how you've been guided to do what you're doing, what aha moments have you come to realize that you felt guided to work mainly with women? So we talked a little bit about that. Um, it's in terms of saying, aha, this is what it's coming. So you kind of touched
Mm-hmm.
on that in terms of
Yeah.
realizing it.
Mm-hmm. There's another moment I can share too where there was a woman that came to me and she had not had her period for 9 months. And at this point, I was working with the spirit of my blood. But there was a level of embodiment that I had yet to experience with it. I was doing it because, you know, I knew that is something that I should be doing if I was doing womb work. And during my session with this woman, I was actually, um, the spirit of her blood channeled into me. And I became the spirit of her blood. And it was a very surreal experience because it was my first time that I
Mm,
actually experienced this. And what had happened was 9 months ago, before her moon stopped coming, she was actually offering her blood to certain plants in a house. And there was a lot of trauma that happened in that house. And so as the spirit of the blood came into me, it showed me that it was almost like a timeline loop. Like it was still in that house
okay.
and it was actually re-experiencing the pain. It was stuck there. So we actually performed a soul retrieval on the blood, and the blood went back into her body. And before she welcomes it back into her body, she had to um, do a forgiveness practice and really, really honoring just how sacred and powerful her blood is. And it was a journey of her realizing that it's not something that she should be offering freely to every house. It has to be, or every plant, like the environment has to be very safe. And so I would say that experience of really embodying the blood and becoming the blood, and feeling the emotions of that
Wow.
the consciousness was holding, that was a huge aha moment that I was meant to be doing this work. And also another one was the first time I worked with the rose was on Valentine's Day a few years ago, and I was in a tantra ceremony, and it involved really utilizing our senses with there were feathers, there was also the rose that I was very, very drawn to. And I think on the surface it looked very simple. I was tracing a rose, on different areas of my body and just being so present with it. And later on that night, I was lying in bed and I just got this vision of this vibrant rose. It was like, and as that was happening, I could feel my body started to shake, and there was this energy that was rising up my spine. And with my understanding now, I understand that that was the beginning of my Kundalini awakening. But it was actually through working with the rose, which is a manifestation feminine energy, that that awakening happens. So again, another moment to say like, wow, like there is a connection that I have to the feminine force. Um, and of course, all of us have that connection, but there was something that did want to come through because it wanted to be expressed, it wanted to be taught through my work.
Yeah, because I know it's been so beautiful, even with Peter, you know, since I met Peter, and then since, of course, you and Peter have been together, with him incorporating a lot of roses into the things that
Mm-hmm,
he was doing, even with the cacao ceremonies, the things that
mm-hmm,
we were doing at the retreat 2 or 3 years ago when we first started doing them, it was so beautiful, right? The pictures were beautiful. Just to see the
mm-hmm,
roses and the petals of the roses, in and
mm-hmm,
around all of these different ceremonies, and the mandalas we made creating for the fires, and that type of thing with these roses, right?
mm-hmm.
Um,
I think that when we talk about plant medicine, it's very common for us to think about, ayahuasca and other beloved teachers. But rose is also plant medicine,
yeah,
and yes, and her spirit is very, very powerful. So yeah, thank you for that reflection of just the added layer of beauty and of power that comes through when we begin incorporating her in our ceremonies.
well, it is because I mean, not even just to see it. I mean, you can feel it,
Mm-hmm.
right? You actually
Mm-hmm.
feel. Um, Even through just the vision, the energy of the vision of seeing it
Mm-hmm.
with them all around, just that,
Mm-hmm.
the vibration of a rose, literally,
Mm-hmm.
is a lot more profound than most people realize when you actually connect in a different way with that plant, right? It's absolutely
Absolutely.
beautiful. It's beyond
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Beautiful to most people, but when you go a little deeper than just looking at the beauty of what it looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
It definitely
Mm-hmm.
is. It is profound. Um, Now, do you do rose healings too, though, right? Like you have a few things that you do with the rose. Like what all do you do with the rose when you're using when you're I shouldn't say using. I don't like that term. When you work with the rose and the rose with you. Um,
So I began to do rose blessings on women and individuals. And, at the time when I first started out, it was because I was inspired. I really wanted to share the energy of the rose with fellow women. And what I started noticing was that every single one of them would come back to me after and say, "Oh my gosh, Rose has been speaking to me ever since we had that experience together. I've been seeing
right.
Rose everywhere. I'll walk on the street and I'll begin smelling Rose as I'm walking." And that was a realization that, there is an activation of the rose that can happen through these sessions. So it is through the blessing that it's an invitation for the spirit of the rose to embody and work on your vessel. So, in my rose blessings, there's a few components to it. One of them is the physical presence of roses, because as you and I just spoke about, there is this power and there is this magnetism that's added to the space the second roses are physically available. So this can be in the flower form. It can also be in the form of petals. And there's also an energy component, which is, the frequency that rose carries can be channeled outside of having physical roses present in the same way that we can channel on Reiki, as an example. And the third component is the spiritual component, which is actually honoring the spirit of the rose as an essence that you can really talk to and speak to and receive guidance from. So all of these combined creates a rose blessing. So some people have, specific requests. Rose is very good, especially for working on the heart area, for opening that area, for, resolving sisterhood wounds, or just feelings of being small, insecurity. So some people do have requests, but just as a frequency, rose carries such a high vibration of love and beauty. So, beauty is an energy that can be felt. Like sometimes when we say beauty, we think about physical beauty, whether that's, what we consider to be, like physically appealing on a person, or also a sunset, um, but it really is an energy that I've learned through the help of the rose that acts as a life force to really charge us up and to really inspire us. So, rose is a carrier of those two frequencies, and sometimes it's about just getting an energetic reset from being held in the loving arms of the divine feminine.
Most definitely. Well said. Well said. Like I said, it's as we know with most plants, they too, all plants have a place. Right? They all,
Mm-hmm.
there are chosen plants, as you said, that we focus on, in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways for the guidance and help with people for various reasons. But in essence, when it comes down to like trees and plants and like my thing's the willow. A
Mm-hmm.
willow tree. I have one not far from here. It's huge. I don't think I've ever seen a willow this big, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in a different way, but similar to what you're explaining is how I feel when I'm with this willow. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, it just goes to
Mm-hmm.
show you, right? People don't realize that they live and breathe.
Yeah,
They have
medicine
their
and
own spirit.
spirits are everywhere. You just gotta
100%.
ask for it. Hmm.
Most definitely. And you connect with the rose, I connect with the trees, specifically
Hmm.
the willow, but with the trees is kind of my thing. And I'm sure there's many out there that are watching this, that if you sit and you think about it, you may not realize it's a connection, but if you think to whether it's a potted plant, something in your gardens, or somewhere that
Hmm.
you go, know that it's like you specifically like this one the most. Well, sit with that, right?
Hmm.
Same with these rose healings that you do, right?
Hmm.
There is a connection,
Hmm.
and I think there are a lot of people that do know that, but then there's a lot of people that really do not. So that's
Hmm.
very beautiful. As I said, I definitely saw and felt that at the retreats that we held when you always had the roses. And as I said, it was so beautiful to see Peter welcoming that into his space with the
Hmm.
healings and the things he was doing as well. It was beautiful, really
Hmm.
beautiful.
Thank you,
Um,
Leah.
no, thank you. I know you had mentioned we talked. I did have mentioned. I did have sitting here talking about the woman that didn't have her moon cycle for 9 months. So you did talk about that. Um, I'm just trying to see here. What else did I kind of have here that I wanted to ask you? We did talk about your beginnings. I didn't know you were a fashion photographer because when I met you, you were doing photography, so I had no idea that you had been doing it
Hmm.
that long. That's beautiful. Even from the time that I met you till now, I still see a tremendous growth in that period.
The growth is infinite. It keeps on going, and
Oh, of course,
that's
it
one thing I
never ends.
love as a creative. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just even like I said, even just from when I met you till now, it's blossomed even still,
Thank
right?
you. Thank you.
It's amazing. I see every now and then. I'm not on Facebook much more than to work as a rule, so I don't always see everything. But there's that odd time when I'm on there to do something and I open it up and I'll
Hmm.
see some of your posts come up and I'm like, oh, look at these pictures. Oh my God, these photos are, each one of them, when you see them, like when I see them anyways, I know I feel a trauma in that person, right? Like I'm picking up on what they're feeling in that moment and I see it, and I feel it. Whatever that's going on, or maybe just the beauty of them just breathing, right? And just like
Hmm.
letting it out and you're capturing that. It's, yeah, like I said, when I see the photos, I feel them. So, um,
Mm.
that's beautiful. Um, and even with your channeling, I think the first time that you and I ever had a moment of your channeling um, was after that circle that we were talking about, where I actually channeled the goddess of fire, or yeah, the goddess of
Mm.
fire. And we had talked a while later, and you actually were the one that gave me, and I did find out, in fact, that there was more to it, but that in fact I was a creatrix, and actually I didn't even know what a creatrix was
Mm.
when you brought that up to me, and I thought, okay, I have an idea because it's just the word in itself, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
as I went further, I started to realize, okay, so now I see what's going on. And I was actually channeling the goddess of creativity as well.
Mm-hmm. Multi-layered, yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting when you channeled that message, and let me know at that point at the one retreat. It was kind of interesting. I had to sit with it. I was like, okay.
Hmm.
And
Wow,
yeah,
I
so that was,
remember that. Hmm.
yeah, so it was like, thank you. Because I wasn't even asked about it, I don't think, maybe down the road. But at
Hmm.
that point in time, it really kind of opened me up to digging a little further to see what was going on. So that was kind of interesting.
Hmm.
Um, so what about, is there any other like healing modalities or is there anything else that we really haven't touched on that maybe you can think of that some of the things that you do as well? Other things?
Um, I think we touched on most of it. I think that the in the realm of energy healing and the sessions that I offer, it is very intuitive. So there's two main kind of packages that I present my healing sessions as. There's one that's a general energy healing session. There's another one that is wound healing. Um, so I think something that's interesting about wound healing too is that with my experience with women who come to me for wound healing, sometimes they think that they're coming to me because there's an issue, in their womb, and they think it's all in their womb. And as I speak to the womb's like, oh, actually, no, it's her mental space, or no, you got to work on the heart instead. So it's really interesting. Like I have to divide kind of the way I present my services in these two components so that people can understand. But everything is so tied together because the system of our energy bodies and our physical bodies are so connected, right? So it's always really interesting to see like where the energy gets directed to.
Yeah, because the energy is what. And as my parrot, she's decided she wants to chime in, so
Hmm.
it'll only be for a short time. I apologize.
Hmm.
Some people, most people are pretty good with it, but some people, when they start to hear a bird squawking, they kind of go, "Oh my god!"
Oh yeah, I heard her say hello a few times throughout the call.
Yeah, she likes to have her little 2 cents in there every now and then. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, no, it's interesting. Again, a lot of this is relative in different ways. With all the work that a lot of us do, it's an energetic process as
So much.
well,
Hmm.
right? That the human mind tends to overthink and overanalyze as opposed
Hmm.
to really getting to the point of what's going on and what needs to be done,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Which is
Totally.
why it's important for everybody is you do what you do, and so that there are avenues to take that people can really go in and open up to what really needs to be done, you know,
Hmm.
as opposed to just surmising or, oh, this is wrong with me or that's wrong with me, and it's like, well, no, I don't see that, you know.
Hmm.
So it's always an um, interesting endeavor for all of us in terms of everything that gets done and that
Mhm.
we're guided to help people.
Mhm.
It's so
Mhm.
beautiful. It's so
There are
beautiful.
infinite ways of moving through energy, infinite ways of healing.
Definitely. Oh yes,
Mhm.
100%. And I mean, as you know, many of us talk about, the fact that as I like to say, we're conduits of healing, but we'll just say healers. As healers, it's one of those things where, people that are new to this type of thing, one of the things that they need to realize is that we don't stop healing ourselves. You
Mhm.
know, no matter how much you do on yourself, every day, year, month, year, there's always even a small trauma that can happen in our lives that
Mhm.
create those buildup of energies in different areas of the body and the mind that need to be addressed. So I mean, especially working with others, that's something that we have to be um, diligent with too, is to
Mhm.
continually work on ourselves, in order to be sure that as working as clean a vessel as we can. We
Mhm.
are human as well. We're not perfect, but yeah, in order
And
to.
it keeps us as students, it keeps us
Oh,
with an open mind and always learning. So it's a humble place to be.
100%. Oh yeah, aha moments. I think every client presents, even no matter how little, how big, it doesn't matter. It's there's always aha moments. I think in every session we have, when it
Mhm.
comes to working with people and helping them,
Mhm.
it is definitely a learning experience, ongoing. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Um,
Mhm.
So, if people wanted to reach out to you, I'm going to put all the links for your website, your Instagram, I think, and Facebook. Yeah, you've got Facebook as well, right?
Mm,
Or not as much?
website and Instagram are better.
Okay.
Just yeah.
Yeah, I'm not on Instagram. I go on occasionally just because it's what everybody does to get my information out there because there's so many on Instagram that aren't
Mhm.
on Facebook. But for me, because I do a lot of stuff on my computer as opposed to with the phone, I just find it very limiting on Instagram. So I do what I put stuff up, but like I said, it's not my go-to. I like to be on my computer because I have everything on hard drives and everything else to pull, go, and do.
Mhm.
So I'm not I'm
Mhm.
more the Facebook girl. Um,
Mhm.
is there any other advice that or anything you would like to put out there going forward for anybody that's seeing this?
Hmm. I think remembering that
Okay.
you are creation creating itself. And I think that some people, when we hear the word creating, we can think, oh, that's through arts, that's through dance, that's through singing. But in reality, we are expressions of source. And so every breath can be a creation through our intention. What are we, can we treat every inhale as a prayer and every exhale as release? And that said, everyone's individual healing journey is different. And you're going to find, in the same way that we talked about you with the willow tree and me with the roses, everyone has their own unique path that they're going to be guided to, that they'll find inspiration from to really, go on their healing journey. And so just really, embrace the process and find as much beauty, or open yourself to as much beauty to every moment and every challenge and every experience while you're doing so.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So true. So true. Um, Samantha, do you have any questions that you might want to ask, perhaps? See what Sam's doing. She's she's quiet right now. I haven't heard from her much.
Well, that might just be complete.
Maybe for anybody that really would like to learn and definitely navigate this type of information with niche and go forward. I think it's really important for women, going forward to undertake these types of things, if only even just to reach out um, and begin to navigate and then go from there. Inevitably, I find when you feel the resonation to go with something, typically there's a reason. It's not just a thought. You're being guided to do that. So for those that are watching this, please don't hesitate to reach out to Mish if or when some of this information resonates with you, because it is important that this work is done. Even if it's not just a healing journey. I mean, just to appreciate and navigate through what we as women may not fully comprehend or understand about our bodies. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Even I continue to learn about this stuff now, as I said, because I didn't have that opportunity when I was younger. So it's beautiful that this is here now. Don't feel that you have to be a young woman if you're in menopause or beyond menopause. That doesn't mean it ends. You still have a womb. Really quickly, the one thing we didn't touch in, and we're really tight on time, but what about women that have had their womb removed?
So energetically, the womb is still there,
It's still
and
there.
that's something that happened to you. And there's actually practices that you can do to begin rebuilding that connection to that energy space. So I have worked with women in that situation, and
Beautiful.
it is first, that acknowledgement of it's still there, and actually when certain organs are removed from our body, it also leaves, I forget the official term, but there's an imprint of the essence that's there. So
Mm-hmm.
not only is that there, but you can still tap into, said womb consciousness through that portal.
Good to know. Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. There are some women that maybe are in that position that may think, okay, well, I don't have my womb anymore. So, and I mean, even I don't know a lot about that, but even I feel the guidance that it's still. It's almost like when somebody, when people, if they lose a limb, and they say
Mm-hmm.
afterwards that even though they don't have the limb, they always feel like it's there,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Doesn't go away. That feeling never 100% is gone. You always still feel like the leg is still there. The arm is still there.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could pick something up with it, even though it's been severed or it's no longer there. So, that's a
Mm-hmm.
really good example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mish.
Thank you.
It's been beautiful talking with you. I don't see you guys near enough anymore. We went from seeing each other off and on all the time, and just so much time and space. Everybody's so busy.
Yeah.
It's difficult, but as I said to Rose and whatnot, at some point it's one of those things where even once a year we need to make a time and just say, you know what, okay, let's just get together,
Yeah.
let's just do it.
Mm-hmm.
This time is flying so much, but I'll be in touch. Um, I'm looking forward to seeing Peter. He's up soon too. So give
Mm-hmm.
him a nudge. Send me my information.
Okay, that sounds great. Is he booked in for a set date? Because he said he didn't tell me.
Yeah, with the date set. It's
Okay.
actually,
I don't even think he's aware of that. I should probably tell him. He thinks it's
yeah,
not booked.
remind him. I'll give him a nudge too.
Okay,
But
sounds
it is
good.
coming up, so we'll do
Okay.
that. Thank you so much.
Lots
I
of
always learn through
love.
these discussions. It's fabulous for me because I continuously learn over and over, and it's such a beautiful thing. So for those of you watching the replay, please enjoy this and reach out to Mish. Even if you just have questions, and you're not sure about something, and you're not too sure that it's something you want or need, but that's okay. If you've got questions, that's okay. Reach out to Mish. I'm sure she would gladly um, talk with you and answer
I'm
those
all
questions.
here. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I will have
Mm-hmm.
the links and whatnot will be up on the video and of course in the post. And I'll be in touch to let you know when those are up, Mish, and we'll get those out.
Beauty.
As many people as possible can see them. On Instagram, it's michchiu.love at Mich Chiu. Her healing website is www.michchiu, which is michchiu.love. And the photography, of course, is www.michchiu.com. which again, michchiu.com.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it'll be on the video, so you'll be able to see it from there. Everybody, depending on when you watch this, we're in for a beauty of a storm coming up. So everybody, please be careful out there in the next few days. If you have to and you can, hunker down, stay warm, and stay safe. And I'll see you and talk to you again soon, I hope, Mish. Thank you so much.
Bye.
We'll see you later, everybody.